All right, welcome. This is the Convictions Podcast. I'm Brandon Coluccio, your host and guide on this journey as we talk to some incredible people and learn about their adventures through life, business, failure, and success. On this show, we discuss the topic of catastrophic failure because we realize that with failure comes pain, and with pain comes the opportunity to harvest wisdom. Our goal for this show is to inspire and humanize people who've overcome huge setbacks in life and use those setbacks to launch themselves to heights that they've never imagined possible. Remember, every failure is a golden opportunity to harness the chaos of your life and propel yourself forward. So let's dive in. Today's guest is originally from Houston, Texas, and he has experienced struggle unlike anyone we've featured on this show to date. Born into an environment where he grew up surrounded by crime and negativity, he lacked direction and meaning as he grew into adulthood. And to make matters worse, just as he was becoming a young man, his father was tragically murdered. After his father passed away, our guest fell headfirst into the criminal lifestyle, a decision that ultimately landed him in a French prison where he served 2.5 years of a 12-year sentence. After being released from jail, he had a brush with success when he landed a record deal with Ludacris. Although he stumbled into some financial success, he was still not living in alignment with his true self and managed to spend himself into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. For over 2 years, he was living out of his car until one day, a chance encounter with a homeless man at a gas station altered his life forever. He suddenly realized that if he expected to climb out of this current situation, that he was going to have to make a major upgrade to his mindset. And from that moment, our guest put in the work to rebuild his self-confidence, surround himself with better people, and to pursue work that filled him with a sense of meaning and purpose. Since then, our guest has become a highly sought-after speaker who's spoken in over 60 countries around the world. He has created a podcast called Welcome Home. He has authored the wonderful book, Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. And he is on a mission to create a safe space where people can find the inner freedom that allows them to access their natural gifts in life. Please welcome the master of manifestation, Mr. Garrain Jones. So Garrain,
it was welcome, so cool hearing you say that.
I've been practicing that for a long time.
Yeah, it was so cool hearing you say that because I literally take myself out of myself and listen as if I didn't know me at all. And I was like, yo, that would be somebody I would like really want to listen to. So thank you for just using those words so eloquently and just doing the research to be able to even create a platform like this so stories like mine and yours can have wings.
I appreciate you saying that, man. I do try to put a lot of effort into this. I try to really respect people's stories, right? Because that's what this show is supposed to be about. And I try to pay tribute to their stories because I think we live in a culture, this kind of Instagram culture where there's so much facade. There's so much that really doesn't portray how things actually go in a lot of our lives. Everyone experiences struggle, right? And so that's what this is about. It's to sort of humanize each of us. And so I just want to thank you for being so open and being willing to share your story with everyone and for sharing it with me as well. So thanks, man. I'm super grateful.
You're so welcome.
So, I think, you've done a wonderful job of kind of sharing your story, but I think just for anyone who might be listening, who doesn't really doesn't know you or hasn't heard your story, do you mind kind of giving us a quick and dirty, background of you and where you've come from?
Yeah. So I was born in Houston, raised in Missouri City, Texas. And I wouldn't say I had the easiest life. Somehow or another, I'd always find my way to hang out with the kids that got in the most trouble. And ultimately, I believe is because those are the people who paid attention to me most. So by nature, I started doing everything that they were doing, breaking into houses, breaking into cars. And my family didn't come from money, so I didn't even know what that looked like. So I just, you take what you want. But that was the mentality of the environment of the people that I was hanging out with most. Well, if you can understand how ABCs work, ABCs turns into words, turn into sentences, paragraphs, essays, books. So imagine the ABCs of crime or the ABCs of getting in trouble as a little kid. And that loop like a open program on your phone, just keeps running and running and running. Well, my life was a manifestation of that little kid who just kept getting in trouble. And over time, if you do something long enough, it will eventually evolve. So the ABC version of little kid crime turned into little kid getting busted for breaking into 62 cars in one night, getting tried as an adult at age 14, and then going to juvenile for 6.5 months. And I just kept doing it. There's something about it. It was like I just kept doing it. There was this exhilarating feeling about the potential of getting caught, but then tricking this system, and I kept doing it. And then when I stopped, I turned that into chasing women. Everything became a big game for me. And I would say that I never really had the kind of guidance that could support me in building the kind of life that I actually wanted. So I just did what everybody else told me to do. Or I copied whatever I saw around me. Hold on one second. Oh, I need water.
Go ahead. If you have to go grab something, go ahead. No big deal.
Yeah. So excuse me, listeners out there. You know, when the spit goes down the wrong tube.
At least I didn't do that during the intro.
Yeah.
If you have to take a minute, go ahead.
I'm good now.
Good.
So I then I just kept on with the crime stuff. Like after the women, and I was like, oh man, this is an opportunity to go and do some other stuff. I was an adult. So I just kept doing it. Even though I was modeling and I was on billboards, I never really did anything where I could make instant money. And so I fell into a lick, the opportunity to drive certain cars over a border onto a ferry and then end up in Rotterdam, in Amsterdam, drop the car off, make some instant cash. I did it maybe 7 or 8 times. The eighth time I got caught at the border, then they busted me, and it ended up being 6.2 kilos of heroin. And I never in my right mind, if I would have known that that's what it was, I wouldn't have done it just because out of fear itself of getting caught. But because I was playing the game called, if I don't know what it is, then I can say, I don't know. And I'm just driving a car with Congo drums. Well, I ended up getting caught, and because I didn't snitch, I became the face of it all. And it was connected to certain mafia. It was connected to certain cartels. It was like really deep stuff that I had no idea. Is my point person, and that's it. And but while I was in prison, I got a chance to really learn about myself. And then 2.5 years later, I'm sure we'll cover this, but I got out. When I got out, I lost that lack of direction. And it was just an up and down roller coaster. And I'd say all of that hit the nail on the coffin in August 2011 at 3:43 in the morning. No money, cars in and out of the impound. Girlfriend had just broken up with me. Daughter pretty much disowned me. My mom was dying in the hospital. And finally, I was just like, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like, there's gotta be, there's no possible way I was put on this earth to pay bills and die and then pass that philosophy on to my kids. There's gotta be more. I'm too talented to go out like this. And that's when I had my call, my awakening, if you, in such. And I said, I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. I want to be surrounded by nothing but positive people. I just want to inspire people. And I want to make a bunch of money, but I want the money to represent something that I passionately believe in, that I would do for free. Just show me a sign. Sign came later. Well, I know that now as I connect the dots looking backwards, but it was a homeless guy that approached me that said, asked me if I had any money. I said, you have more money than me. And he goes, change your mindset, change your life. The name of my company now, the name of my book, it's just like the name of when people get paid, they get paid in checks that say, change your mindset, change your life. And it was in that moment, my whole life stopped. And I thought about, what if my whole life was a lie based off of what my mind was thinking, what my mind was set on? So if I do the opposite of everything that I would normally do, my life will change. Well, it's been 10 years, literally almost to the day. And every single day, I don't feel like doing something in areas of my life that are not working. I have trained myself how to change my mindset, and it has changed my life. I've trained myself to do the opposite. And every time I did the opposite, it produced a different result. So I'm 10 years removed from the habitual nature that I lived my life in, which was agreements that I had agreed upon when I was a child. So I'm 10 years removed from that, and now living a life that has surpassed my wildest dreams.
Good for you, man. And congratulations on all your success. It's such a wild story. When I first heard it, I was like, I have to reach out to Garrain. And I was like, there's no way he'll ever respond. No one's ever heard of this show, but I'm going to try. Right. And so again, I'm just super grateful you're here, man. I really am. The one thing I want to dig into, and I might already know the answer, but there's kind of a key element here that, like, you went through so much. You were coming from a position of basically like ground level. You're starting from scratch, right? You're
below ground level.
Below, let's agree. Okay, fair enough. For me, kind of one of the things I've struggled with is kind of the self-confidence after going through such a massive kind of destruction of ego, right? Maybe it was easy for you because you were sort of at that point for a while, like you just had, like you said, you had enough. But how did you end up building the self-confidence to kind of put yourself back out there again? Because I think that's something that a lot of people end up falling into and never end up pulling themselves out of. So could you highlight that for me?
Yeah, I can tell you the reason why they never end up pulling themselves out, because they try to go back into the same environment that actually created them to be who they are. So community is what shapes you. Community is what shapes you. You don't shape yourself. You are shaped by the environment that you surround yourself the most. And so I just so happen to be around healthy, active lifestyle, personal growth people for the first time in my life. Never heard the way they spoke, never heard so many people that were passionate and goal-driven about making a difference in the world. I've always been passionate. I just didn't know where to put the energy.
Right.
So by way of community, when I sought out a healthy, active lifestyle community, I started getting healthy. I started hearing about their goals, what they wanted to do. So naturally, just like when I was in the community of thieves and thugs when I was a little, I did what they did. Right. So because I wasn't trying to do it by myself, Michael Jordan didn't win a championship by himself. He won it through community, a coach, a team. There's so much, a city. So for me, the confidence comes from consistently seeing examples of what you're growing into, because you can't be what you can't see. That's why having mentors is so important. Having somebody in your life that can pull out of you what you can't pull out of yourself. So community is a very high priority and a very high value system. I lacked relationships with men until this year, and I sought out men community for that reason.
Got it.
And now I have extraordinary relationships with men.
Right. Right. Yeah, I've looked a little bit into what you're doing, and it seems super interesting. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more later on if you'd like. And so, this in your book, you talk a little bit about like kind of struggle. I actually have a huge note in my book. It's all scribbled and dog-eared and all that. But like one of the things that I got out of it was like struggle equals process, right? Like struggle is a process, right? It's a process of finding yourself. At least that's what I took from it. And so, during that process, it's not always necessarily easy, right? And I'm sure, all the work you've done over the past 10 years to try to build yourself up and reinvent yourself, it's probably been a roller coaster ride. And so, did you ever kind of feel like giving up? And, kind of, if so, like for somebody who might be feeling that now, what were some of the tactics that you used to kind of keep yourself going?
So, yeah, well, one, if you say the word struggle, it's already a low resonating word. So it just automatically, I'm struggling. It like literally has you sitting like this. But when you change it, this is part of the process.
Yeah.
And the thing that kept me going, again, I'm going to go back to it, was I had people in my life who stood for me to be greater.
Yeah.
I did not try to do it by myself when I came home from prison. I was like, man, I got to do something different. There's people that's like, no, I got it. I'm good. I don't need support. I don't know how to ask for help. That's why you are where you are. I learned how to request support and ask people to hold me accountable for the things that I say that I want. So if I say I want to change my life, I want to lose 40 pounds, and then you catch me eating bacon cheeseburgers and fries, and then you say nothing. Yeah. Well, one, there's no accountability there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fall back on what's comfortable for me. So people by nature fall back on what's comfortable for them. The dog always finds his way home. Well, you can create a new home called accountability. Mm-hmm. And because accountability was a high priority and community was a high priority, it's like, man, okay, I got examples here, and I have people that will tell me when I'm falling off track, because before, when I fell off track, it was easy to fall off because I had nobody to tell me anything, nor did I want to listen. But I wanted to listen because I really deeply, massively wanted to change. Well, if you want to change that much, prove it to yourself. So here's how I prove it to myself. When somebody, it's like right now, I stopped cursing a month ago. And I spoke to my homeboy like 2 weeks ago. As soon as I got on the phone with him, the SH bomb came out. He was like, I'm going to need you to change your language. And I'm like, thank you so much. Thank you for holding me accountable. Yeah. And I was like, but I needed that. I need that. People need accountability. And so I would say requesting support and standing for accountability and having people in your life that will not let you fall and allowing them to stand for you to go higher.
Oh, man, I love that. I think sometimes, I mean, this is just maybe my own personal experience, but I think sometimes people are hesitant to give you that honest feedback. And that's really what you're talking about, right? Is like, so I need you're my friend, you love me. You have an ethical obligation to be honest with me and to call me out. How do you go about kind of setting like that type of a relationship up?
Yeah, well, one, everything is context, because people fear giving feedback because it's not by request.
Yeah.
But if I say, Brandon, I really want to change my life. I need your support. If you see me slipping at all, will you please call me out? You have full permission. So therefore, if there's full permission and it's coming from the person that's asking for support, mm-hmm. Now anything I share with you is from a place of love, because I'm standing for exactly what you asked for, unless you ask me not to. The reason why people fear it, because if you just give unsolicited feedback, it's always like right now, if you don't know me, you tell me, oh, you should do this. Don't you ever tell me what I should and shouldn't do. You don't know me. You don't know my life. However, me and my wife have an agreement. You see me falling off. The other day we were at dinner at our 2-year anniversary. And I said, baby, what are you requesting from me in 2022 to better our marriage? It's like, Garrain, I'm requesting you to complete everything that you start or don't start it. He's like, because you have all these open-ended things that you get really excited and then it dwindles out, really excited. And it's like, I think you should take an extra couple of days to see, is this something that I really want to do? And if you do, I'm going to support you 100%. But you start and stop and start and stop is not helping this family. And she was like, you weren't expecting that, were you? I said, I was expecting you to hold me high. So yes, I was. And thank you so much. And I'm on it. But if she would have just said, pop, 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 and told me, that wouldn't have worked. It would have been an argument. So I think asking someone to hold you accountable and how they can hold you accountable and telling them a certain way to communicate with you. Like right now, because I'm an athlete, so I need you to be like I need you to be hard up with me, because I'm going to walk all over anybody who's really soft. Hey, remember you said that? Yeah, whatever. You know, so I'm going to need you, I need you to be on your stuff. Like you said, you're going to do this by this time. What did you make more important? Damn. Okay, you're right. Okay, I'm on it. So it's one of those things. When you give permission, you give people the key, and then you give them context, and you give them the language on how to communicate with you. It's easy to create that because they'll follow your lead.
Right. Right. No, I think, those relationships are and the one thing that comes up as I interview people on this show is mentorship. It has come up in every single interview. But I think, I talked to one guy and he works with people who are in very difficult circumstances. He's like, I have people who literally can't even get out of bed, right? It's that bad. And so, how do you, I find that once you can start building a little bit of momentum, right? Even if it's just a baby step, things get easier and easier and easier, right? So what is it that it takes to jumpstart that momentum, right? Is there anything that you do personally or any tactics that you've implemented in your life to kind of keep yourself motivated so that you roll out of bed when you really don't want to? That kind of that difficulty getting started feeling that I'm talking about, right? I think that's the hardest part.
It is the hardest part, and it is the process that everyone must go through.
Yeah.
There is no easy way to win a championship.
Sure.
So my thing is, either you want it or you don't. I've seen people with no legs, no feet go and be gold medal winners.
Right.
And in the what is it called?
Paralympics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Olympics. I've seen people, Stevie Wonder, blind, but can see better than all of us. When somebody wants something bad enough, they'll find a way. If they don't want it bad enough, they'll find an excuse. No, but you understand, it's just too early. I bet you right now, if you found out your daughter was burning up in a house right now, you'd get up on time, you do whatever you need to do, and you just boom, you wouldn't think about anything else. So if you don't look at your life as burning up, or your goals as burning up in a fire that's down the street, and you're not waking and it doesn't drive you up, then you don't want it bad enough. That's one of those things that I can't teach that to you. You got to want it bad enough. I wanted to retire my mom bad enough. Yeah. I wanted to put my daughter through school bad enough, to the point where I was willing to go anywhere and everywhere as long as it was ethical. Right. And that's exactly what I did. Now my daughter's college tuition is paid for, and it was paid for 3 years before she even graduated high school. I had an account specifically for her. My mom, I retired her in 2015, but I really wanted it bad enough because I got tired of her working for the man or the woman, or getting paid less than her value to call another man or a woman a boss. I'd rather call herself a boss.
Yeah. And so, you talk a lot about your book is a lot about manifestation, and it's something that I've started implementing in my life, actually, since I've kind of began to research you. I do a lot of manifestation early in the morning after my meditation routine and things like that. And so what are some of your go-to mantras, if you have any, that you run through maybe just in your head or out loud, perhaps first thing in the day? What's your kind of manifestation routine like?
So I have these power words, and it's like three power words that I turned into a sentence. And it's, I am a powerful force of love and freedom, inspiring greatness within myself and others. And it's literally introducing myself to myself and the world.
Okay.
And I'll say that every single morning, 10 times. I am a powerful force of love and freedom, inspiring greatness within myself and others. And these are words that I resonate with, not someone I heard somebody else say and it sounded cool. It was something that I created that I knew my psychology, my just my conscious and unconscious would respond to. And so that is something that is given the power of prayer, my relationship with God, every single day. Before I eat, before I sleep, when I wake up, when something good happens, when something bad happens, I'm always in prayer. I'm in the spirit of prayer. That works for me. I can't speak for anyone else, but that's what works for me. And that's what allows me to maintain the frequency of peace and calmness throughout my days, even with all this stuff going on in the world and at home, especially with baby and everything. So it's I do that, and I take some alone time to myself. My wife wakes up at 6:30. Sometimes I wake up at 4:30 or 5, but I need to have time where it's just me and no computer, no phone, no technology. And I'm working on daily affirmations. I'm doing a workouts. I'm eating healthy, and I'm really taking time to love on myself and love on myself so much that I start overflowing, and I want people to benefit from my overflow and not my exhaust.
Right. And I don't know if you've had, so I've tried to implement some of these things in my own life too. Like the difference is it's incredible, right? When you sort of master your morning, if you will. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but when I was first starting, now it's like, I'm super selfish. I have to have my morning time, right? That's my time for me. I'm incredibly selfish, but I don't know if you've noticed the drastic difference between your day if you don't invest in this time versus the days where you do. And maybe you could kind of highlight some of the contrast in your own life of when you fall off, how bad that day actually feels.
See what happens when you try to push your car. Like you have a car in the garage, you put it in neutral, and you try to push it down the street. And then see what happens when you sit in the car, turn the engine on, let it rev to warm up the engine, and then it settles into the drive, and then you drive down the street. That is the difference. And when you just get up and go, and then when you get up, give to yourself, and then you go from what you first given to yourself. I noticed a huge difference, but I never noticed a bigger difference than when after we had a baby and neither one of us were getting as much sleep. So what it did is amplify everything. So when we weren't getting as much sleep, if I wasn't mastering my morning, my wife was like, yo, it's like you're flustered and I can feel this heat, and everything just felt off. And it was 10 times more because I didn't have the efficiency of sleep.
Right.
And the same thing with my wife. And then all of a sudden, I was like, you know what? Then I'm going to get up at 3:40. I'm going to wake up at 4 o'clock. I'm going to do whatever. Night and day difference. Night and day difference in pushing your car or driving your car. You choose. But that's what you're doing. Pushing your body or actually driving your body off the fuel that you give yourself in the morning.
Yeah. No, it's an incredible, when people ask me these things, like, how have you stayed so positive through this? It's really mastering my morning. And I was never a morning person. I was always kind of, party animal, waking up, not feeling good the next day, waking up late, the whole thing. It wasn't until I went to prison, and it's so hard to admit this. It wasn't until I went to prison that I really took that time.
Because all you had was time.
That's it. And so that was what I was going to ask you was, that experience of taking that time to focus on this and nothing else. Your meals are taken care of. They tell you what to wear. When you have to be awake and at a certain place at a certain time. You have nothing to worry about except your mind. Was there any benefit that you took from that experience? And if so, could you talk about it?
A lot of principles that I use that have made me so monetarily successful and from a spiritual level successful today came from prison.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, listen, in losing my freedom,
Yeah,
I discovered my freedom because I remembered all of the things that brought me the most joy. But when I had all the time, all of a sudden my brain started thinking about other things when I wasn't distracted by women, distracted by this, distracted by bills. I'm like, yo, what can I do in here that I wouldn't normally do out there? So guess what I did? I unlearned English and I taught myself fluent French, which I never thought I could learn another language. I stopped using my dominant hand and I started using my non-dominant hand. So imagine, I was 30, I was 22 when I first went into prison. I had been using my right hand my whole life. All of a sudden I'm in prison. I stopped using my right hand and I started using my non-dominant hand, which exercised a different part of my brain. So I just became ambidextrous. And by nature, I started thinking different and creating different, reading in French, reading in English, and reading books constantly, practicing peace and silence. And, you know, just like, I never really read books out loud. Then I started reading books. I was reading all kinds of books. And so those practices, along with one of the biggest ones, because I wrote so many letters to friends and only 4 people wrote me back, I realized that no one was going to come save me. So I had to learn how to love myself. And I learned how to love myself in a completely different country that did not speak my English during a time that the world hated George Bush and he was still our president.
Right.
And the only thing that pretty much saved me is I appeared to be what most of the people in prison wanted to be, which was a gangbanger from New York. But I wasn't a gangbanger, but I looked the part. I was a black guy with tattoos, came from New York, and all of the killers and everybody, all they wanted to do was be my friend. And they're just asking me questions about 50 Cent and Snoop Dogg. I was like, yo, this is wild.
Right. If they only knew, right? Yeah.
Say it again.
I said, if they only knew, right? You know, you're getting credit
if
for
they only knew.
Yeah.
And so I took the fortunate opportunity to realize that nothing was ever taken away from me. It only stripped away from me what I gave all the power to and reminded me where the power belonged in the first place, with me.
Yep.
So once I figured I forgot about me, it was never about the prison. Somehow I ended up in a space that took away all of what I thought was, oh, my stuff. No, my stuff is me. And I was reminded of me. Once I felt a sense of freedom inside of me and I felt free, even while I was in prison, so crazy how they let me out. I was literally let out of prison and they said, hey, Jones, we retested the drugs. Makes no sense why they retested the drugs because they'd already tested the drugs 3 times, 6.2 kilos of heroin. But when I felt free, we retested the drugs. 85% was fake. For the amount that's real, you've already done the time. You're free to go home.
Yeah, that just like, that gives me goosebumps, man. I mean, it's wild. That kind of stuff doesn't happen.
No.
I mean, it's such an incredible story. Such an incredible story. But you talk about kind of finding yourself while you were in prison. And there's a little paragraph in your book that I really like that reminds me of something a friend said to me. And it's, I have learned the hard way that if you don't tell yourself who you are, you will eventually live a life based on who you think other people think you are. It is like living inside inside of a jail cell, which leads to the loss of self. Right. And so the reason I bring that, I just think that's beautiful, because like the process of whether it's prison or some sort of struggle in life or failure, right? Prison's sort of an extreme example. You know, you find people and you meet people who are perfectly free, right? They're out in the world. They have, you know, all the freedoms that, you know, I think most of us would hope for, but they're still living inside a prison, right? They're living in a worse prison cell than you or I have ever been in.
100%.
Right. And so, you know, I think that I've said this to people and they look at me like I'm a lunatic, but I think everybody actually could benefit from that experience. Maybe not necessarily in a prison cell, but taking that time to focus on themselves, right?
Solitary confinement, yes.
Correct. And I did some of that, and it's very difficult, but it forces you to deeply introspect. And so I'm getting to a question, but like, do you currently take the time, perhaps, you know, you and Blair take some time to, you know, do this on your own now to kind of just totally disconnect for maybe a week or two, and like, that's your time? Is that something that you've actually implemented in your life, or
So
you haven't the time?
I've done 5-day silent retreats.
Yeah. Okay.
Last year I did 7 days, the Grand Canyon, no technology, with like 10 men. And then one of those days was completely no talking, completely silence. So I have practices that I do, and my goal is to do them on a regular basis, like maybe once a month, take 1 day to like really to really be in the state of really what's going on in the world, to process and everything. I don't have a regular practice, but it's something that I'm continuously doing throughout my life.
Yeah, I don't think people appreciate how valuable that time actually is. I mean, it's incredibly valuable to kind of totally disconnect, separate yourself from all your problems, all the technology, everything, and just think. You know, there's just such mental clarity that comes along with that. And so I want to shift gears real quick here before we kind of wrap up. You know, you're at a point now where you've achieved kind of a certain amount of success. And what I think is most successful about you is that your life appears to be like in such alignment, right? You know, your health is optimized, your mental health, your physical health. You've got a wonderful, beautiful relationship that you've built. You've got a business that's like around your health, right? And helping other people. I mean, it's all just in such alignment. You know, what is that next thing, or is there a next thing for you, right? And how do you kind of keep going and keep working on, you know, when you've achieved so much, how do you keep yourself moving in that direction?
I mean, you can't hit a target you don't have, but now I have this new relationship with men.
Yeah.
I never had relationships with men. It was always with women because of, you know, some toxic things that happened with my dad and my brother when I was little, and every man in the world became my dad, and the energy of my dad and my brother. And I took that as a challenge. It's like, if I don't accept man, then I actually don't accept part of me. So this whole year has been about truly accepting all of me, and then accepting all of me inside, because everybody's a reflection of you if you choose to see it. Accepting all of me inside of other people. So if I don't like what you're doing, what inside of me is it reflecting that I don't like? So my next challenge is developing and cultivating beautiful relationships and friendships with men. And then we just had a baby. So it just keeps going. Like, we want to keep expanding. And, you know, we want to take us from having, you know, slightly under, slightly under 8 figures per year. And in the next 5 years, me and my wife want to be 100 million.
Yeah.
That's not going to be from the people the person who you're talking to now. So just knowing that, and 100 million impact, 100 million in dollars after taxes, all of that is going to be a completely different person. So that keeps me on my toes, because I'm always thinking about how can I make it greater? How can I make it deeper? How can I make a bigger impact while celebrating the impact that's already made? And so it's like this front runner called the highest version of me,
Yep.
kind of leading the way, and me seeing that example inside of other people, like a Conor McGregor who's got this big quality of life. I like that and I want that. And you can't be what you can't see. So now it's like, okay, what do I get to create and bring into the world so that I'm stretching and growing and everything? So what I did is I answered the calling, and me, my boy Preston Smiles, and Stefano Sifandos were the co-founders of Empowered Brotherhood, which is going to be one of the largest men's movements on the entire planet. And it's already has so much momentum. And our chief aim is to build men up and create a new way for man to experience himself and the world, to see men from a place for who we really are, not what we cast ourselves out because there was lots of toxin and everything when it comes to men that just never really got a fair shot to begin with.
Yeah.
Now it's these health conscious men that understands the feminine inside of them, the masculine inside of them, and we're building men up through the way in which we choose to coach and the processes and things like that. And we're launching a global platform that's literally launching February 18th. And it's already men from all over the world that are literally moving to Austin just to be in the energy of what we're creating, because we're not playing any games. And the momentum of what's being created is bigger than the containers. So we got to keep creating containers that can fit the vastness of the momentum that just full on charge. So that's one thing. But I'm also a person that's healing my man wound. So I'm also teaching what I'm healing through, while all these other men who never really had those relationships are coming together in this whole new way that has the tribal aspect for the physical, the spiritual, the health wise, and the whole spectrum of man. So that's a huge one for me, because I'm learning while I'm guiding.
That's very cool. And it's like you're building a business around essentially becoming a better version of yourself, right? And so the question I ask myself all the time is, what is the man, who do I have to become to be worthy of the life of my dreams? Right? Like, what does that person look like? And to your point, I'm certainly not that man today, right? So I think that to me is the answer, is enjoying that process and finding finding challenge in that process, because I think that's kind of why we're all here, right? There really isn't ever a destination. It's about finding enjoyment in the journey. And that's really what I've learned through my experience. And so, I'll wrap up by asking, if you want to kind of share where people can find you, where people might be able to learn a little bit more about this project that you're working on. Could you please share that with us?
Yeah. So if you go to my website, GarrainJones.com, there'll be things there. And if you go to the letter M, Powered Brotherhood.com, my Instagram, Garrain.Jones, Facebook, Garrain Jones. And I have a book, you have that book. So it's on Amazon in Spanish and English. It's called Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. And we're in the process of recording the audiobook as well. Awesome.
Well, Garrain, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much. Again, I'm super grateful for you coming on. I really enjoyed this conversation. So thank you so much, man. And best of luck to you.
You're so welcome. And thank you so much for creating this platform and during this process, sending you so much beautiful inside and out energy, healing energy, and amplified, abundant energy coming your way. And may you truly receive everything that you've worked hard for.
I will. Thank you so much, Garrain. I appreciate it.
All right, bro. Take care.
All right, man. You take it easy.
Peace.
Bye.